Hello, and hopefully welcome back to this fourth episode where I'm speaking to Dr. Calvin Lawrence. We're talking all about what it means to be the change, starting where you are and making a difference in the world. Dr. Lawrence has served in education in all kinds of roles, including being a university professor, special education teacher, and a principal. He has a new book, The Happy Leader, which chronicles some of the memories from his life and provides soul-facing guidance for those who want to navigate life with care and connection and relationships at the center. And hello, I'm Christina Kottman. I'm a former elementary educator and I taught for a decade in international schools. And I love sharing what's already working in schools because there are some things that are actually going well. One of the reasons I do these podcast episodes talking with educators is to share the stories, struggles, and wisdom from folks who have already lived the talk and learned the lessons so that teachers and advocates for improvement in education have a roadmap to reference. In this fourth and final episode, we're talking about what it means to be the change and make a difference in the world. And Dr. Calvin and I actually share a connection. We both attended, though a few years apart, the same university, James Madison University in Harrisonburg, Virginia. And this is one of their signature phrases, be the change. Welcome back, Dr. Calvin Lawrence. You are joining us for this amazing episode where we are stepping fully back into our JMU shoes as Dukes and thinking about being the change in the world, particularly in education, and what it really means to start where you are. There is a lot between the two of us with JMU and connections in Virginia. And one of the quotes I think we both resonate with is from Arthur Ashe. And it says, "Start where I am, use what I have, and do what I can." So to start off our episode, let's talk about what does that quote mean to you? And particularly, how does it impact your fitness life and staying fit and healthy?
Well, that quote means so much. I'll go to Arthur Ashe first because he's the author of that quote. And Richmond boy, like we were both Virginians. He was up the road from me, maybe about an hour and a half, Richmond to Tidewater, Virginia, and where I grew up in Norfolk and Portsmouth, Virginia. And not just an athlete, but an athlete and a scholar. And I say that in the kindest terms. He was a great athlete, but he was even a greater man. And so to start where you are means that anybody can do that. Anybody, it just means you have to make an effort to do what you have to do, to use whatever you have, and then to do what you can to make a change in society, which is, that JMU motto, which is we're going to be the change. So I just love it because for me, it was a beginning to my life to get going, to get started, to make an impact. I didn't think that way back in the day, Christina. It was probably, and I have to be honest, I was a little bit more selfish way back when, kind of thinking about what's in it for me or how I can do. But then I have to be honest too, because when you start to serve other people, I think you learn how you get so much out of the service, and it's not about you, it's about these other people. So during that time at Madison, and in particular, being in the field that I was in and being able to get out in the community, we talked a little bit about this. You got to get out of that. Even though that's a great campus, there was a bigger Rockingham County and a Harrisonburg community that you and I both got out into and got involved in.
Exactly. And I think it's also the athletic opportunities that we've had. You know, you played football and then later coached track and ran track also, right?
I did. I didn't run track at Madison. I did that in high school. But at Madison, I did the football thing. And in high school, I was football, track and field, and wrestling. But I coached track and field, and I think that's where you're getting it from. The track and field was my favorite sport to coach, even more so than the football because of a couple of reasons. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we should get into those reasons. I was just going to mention that, playing soccer as I did and then marching band particularly, there's a lot of discipline that comes from being part of a team and working with others. And also the consistency that comes from also coaching, because I coached high school soccer teams as well, that develops this belief in continual showing up for yourself and for everyone who is in your team. And so thinking about coaching, where do you think the message of be the change really resonates?
I think if I think about the coaching, it's about when I think be the change. I think that quote originated with Gandhi. I want to make sure I give the right credit where it goes. It is all about what can I do, what kind of impact can I have, and how can I make these not just better on the soccer field or football field on the track, but how can I make these young people better citizens, better people, better individuals? And I think you can think about this, and I'm almost certain you were that type of coach. You're not just thinking about the score. We're gonna beat that team, or we're gonna win the conference, or we're gonna do whatever. But it's about how am I impacting them? Are they getting something out of it? You want them to have fun, but you want them to learn, and you want them to grow and develop. And I think it carries over into the classroom if you do it the right way, because both our situations where we're connected, we didn't do professional sports. I don't think you did. I'm not sure, but we had that connection with the classroom in both instances, and you're trying to make sure that your students are great student athletes. And the student, as they always used to say, the student comes first before the athlete. So you want them to be great. You want them to inquire. You want them to learn. You want them to learn how to think for themselves and to be the best version of themselves they can be. And to me, that's what it means. Yeah.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. It's the development of the student first. And I would also say that the athlete brings a lot of those mental skills, like the consistency, the continual challenging yourself through repetitions, and recognizing that every data point, whether it's the speed of your run on the track or the number of goals that you missed, it's a data point that you can learn from. When I was coaching student athletes, especially in high school soccer, it was all about resetting their mindset to not see every mistake that they make, every error that they make as a personal attack on their ability, on their skill, and their value on the team. And that really went into building the team community around we're learning, we're processing together, we're supporting each other. But if it's something that you take on personally, it's going to hold you back from the results that you're ultimately working towards. And that's where I want to talk about marathons, because marathons are hard, Dr. Calvin Lawrence. Oh my goodness. How are you doing marathons?
Well, and I haven't done a marathon in years. I'm not even sure if I could still do one with my old creaky, achy knees that are, old football injury worn down. But the marathon thing is kind of interesting because I was all about, I'll go back to Christina. You should have been born before me because you're kind of like a inspiration for me now.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so I'm love to break stereotypes. And one of the stereotypes back in the day was that black guys, not the African runners, because they've been awesome for a long time, but in America, a lot of black folks did not run. They didn't do the regular runs around the neighborhood or the 5Ks or the 10Ks or whatnot. It's starting to change a little bit, but I'm dated. And so back in the 70s, the running explosion was kind of not like a full explosion for everybody. And I was like, who can I find? And there was a guy, and he was an NFL guy who ran a marathon. And he was a good role model for me because he played my position and he was a big guy. And the heavyweight runners have a harder time running a marathon as well, for sure, because a marathon is really about being lightweight and being very capable of running for long distances for a long time. Well, that's not always conducive with a heavyweight runner, a bigger runner, but I was going to break two barriers at once. So the big guy and the black guy and the guy who runs those marathons. And it was not at GMU, but later, although my love for track really helped develop strongly at GMU. But later, when I came to Texas, I had a friend of mine who wanted to run the first marathon. And so I'm thinking, yeah, I've done 5Ks, I've done 10Ks. And at that time, they didn't do the halves and all this other stuff that's in between. And so I'm thinking, oh, yeah, I need to do a marathon. And not only am I going to do a marathon, but I'm going to break some stereotypes. I love breaking stereotypes. and you train for it and you do all this stuff. And like you just got through saying about the discipline that you have to run, because you got to train, because if you don't train, you're not going to make it. And I knew there were a lot, especially back in that day, back in the 80s, it was a time when probably maybe half the people who ran marathons didn't finish, maybe even more than half. It's gotten better because people do the training now and they get themselves prepared and they work their way up. So I run it, and I know, because I'm a teacher and a coach, and the students know that I'm going to run, that I got to finish that marathon, right? So when I finished the marathon, my future wife, who is now my wife, was there at the finish line to greet me. And I'm complaining because I'm hurting like I've never hurt before. And I said, I will never run another one of these marathons. And the guy right beside me, who finished beside me, said, well, you'll be back next year. And guess who would have won that bet? So I was back. I was back the next year and the next year and the next year after that. And I really didn't stop running that type of training until I started working on my doctorate. And I have a good excuse, because the doctorate required so much study while I was working full time that I couldn't get the mileage in. So I kind of nixed my running, long distance running, and training for the marathons. But discipline, the euphoria though of completing one, is like nothing else. And the last two that I ran to help two other people finish who had never finished their marathons, and they finished. And so that was the big deal for me to get them. In fact, one of the gal that I ran the last marathon with, did so well that she qualified for New York and Boston. And so she got to run two more marathons and see another part of the country. And I always tease her to this day. She was my editor for my book, in fact. And she said, yeah, I wouldn't have finished without you, but the qualifications for you were a lot easier than they were for me. So she got to run those marathons that I would have paid to run, because they were so great. But anyway, that's my marathon story.
Wow. Yeah, and marathons teach you so much about life and commitment and that resilience
Yes,
and pushing through challenges.
pushing through. When you say the pushing through, I forgot a piece in there. So there's a place where they say there's a section of marathon where the rubber meets the road. It's around mile 18. If you can overcome that, and this is a great, I guess, case in point or lesson for educators. If you can overcome that mile 18, 19, 20, it's right in there where you want to give it up. Wow, there's such imagery with that if you think about it, because you're so close. You completed almost 3/4 of the marathon, but you get to that point and it's like you want to quit. It's like you should give up. But if you can just press through, and I had here we go again. I had people who watching me, and they saw me in that bad state where I couldn't hardly run, and it was like, you can do it, you can finish, you can do it, you can do it. I had the crowd on my side. And then about 3 miles out, I had a guy who came all the way back from finishing the race, and he said, I'm going to help you get through. And I made it through with that assistance. But there is a place in every person's life probably where you think you can't make it through. If you can press through that point, you can get to the end, and the end is so much sweeter because you do it. I think I even had that with the book, Christina. I probably had a time in point where I was thinking there's no way I can finish the book. And maybe that marathon lesson came back to me in my head somewhere, maybe down in my deep subconscious mind. Is like, you know what? You have been at this place. You've been at this place before. If you press forward, you're going to be really happy that you did. And guess what? I was.
I hear that a lot from people who are investing themselves in fitness, and especially when you're learning how to do different exercises, or say you're powerlifting or doing CrossFit or marathons or a swimming challenge like an Ironman, you're building this different discipline side of you that's not just about the outcome, but it's about like honing this skill of perseverance through the challenge. And it's so different, especially when you can feel the wall in front of you. You know, we often have those mental walls as we're educating and feeling like this system just doesn't work for me. I can't really get through to these learners. I can't feel connected to this community. But if you kind of translate that into thinking about fitness and growing through the repetitions and showing up consistently, even on the really hard days, even at 4 a.m. in the gym, it sends this message to your brain that you can do challenging things and you're not going to see the results right now. I think we said in an earlier episode that you might never see the impact that you have on people around you. They're not telling you, they're just watching you. You might never see the impact you have on a learner, that you were particularly there in a season of their life where they needed someone exactly like you and you were able to meet them. But when we're in the process of being teachers or working the education system and we feel like we're running uphill in the 18th mile of the marathon, like, how do we get through that? How do we focus on rebuilding a system from within when it feels like we're the only ones in this race?
Well, you reminded me of the term, and that term is correct. You hit it. It's hitting the wall, and we all hit the wall somewhere. The wall is usually, though, really close to the finish line, and so it's kind of like, how can you get so close and not see it? But it's kind of the way we are, and we've got to figure it out if we've had enough experiences, and that's probably critical. I think, you got novices that get into leadership, you have novices that get into fitness, and they want to give up right before they get the results. Right before. I had a class that I taught at TCU when I first got here to Texas, and it was a fitness class. It was just a general fitness class. And I would tell the people, because they it's always, you get this huge clump of folks. Your classes get full in January. You know why. I know why. Everybody wants to look good for the beach in June, but you got to get through those first 2 months to get there. And I had a guy tell me one time, he said, you see all these people in here in January, they won't be here in March. And he was almost always right, because if you had 50 people, that number might get down to 20 by the time you got to March, because they've all given up. It's like, we didn't get the results, we're not there yet, or we don't just push through that wall, hitting the wall, and then they give up. But if you'll just press through that, you got some really good results that are going to come. You got some successes that are come. You're going to hit some of those target goals that you set for yourself. And that marathon was kind of like that for me. It was like, I was able to hit goals. And then once you get your goals, then you try to get focused on helping other people get their goals. That was, like I said, those last two were about helping other people reach their goals and being successful.
Exactly. It's making me really think about the educators who are about to start their careers. The ones who just graduated in May and June, they're stepping into classrooms for the first time. And, online I'm seeing all the posts of like, oh, I want to get this stuff for my classroom. I want to get set up with my lesson plans. I think this is a perfect opportunity for them to see the teaching career as a marathon, particularly that first year.
Can I jump in here real quick?
Go
Because the analogy is so thick. I just can't help myself. So it's like with the marathon, the life is a marathon, and it requires distance run or distance pace. And you just said it. Those teachers they're jumping at the bits. So if you take off in a marathon like you're running a 5K or 100 meters, you're not going to last very long. And what it is you have to pace it, and the results are not going to, again, going back to the other thing, the results are not going to come very quickly. You just have to hang in there and stay the course. And if you do that, man, the great things are going to happen. You're going to learn those names. You're going to get the scores. You're going to learn your students. You're going to create your culture. You're going to do all the things that you need to do. You're going to be able to get your students ready for whatever tests or exams or standardized stuff that they have to do. But it's not going to happen all at once. And you got to know that. And hopefully, and here we go again about having those mentors and somebody to kind of, hey, hold it, slow it down just a little bit. It's going to be okay, because you'll have these things that will happen right off the bat, and then you want to get it right off the bat, and it won't happen that way. Fitness is so much like that. I guess I should have learned more lessons, because fitness is kind of in my background, and you're alluding to that fact that you have so many of these life lessons through fitness that you can't get any other way than with fitness, because you can see it, you can feel it, you can feel when you're in shape, you can feel when you're not in shape, you can see when you're not in shape. And then when you get there, it's like, I did it, but you got to stay the course.
Exactly. There's also this thought that's coming up of educators who are judging themselves too early about their ability in the profession, and thinking about if it's a marathon, you can't say, oh, I'm going to win this one in mile 5. You are in the first 2 months of school. You have no idea what's coming next. You haven't done the second semester. You haven't gone through conferences and report card season. So giving new educators particularly this big piece of advice to treat the first year particularly as a marathon. Don't judge yourself until you cross that finish line. Don't reflect on all of the moments in just the first quarter mile, because your knees are hurting, your shin splints are starting, but those are signs that you're in it. It's not a sign that you need to quit.
Right. And warn them that mile 18, mile 19, mile 20, they're coming. They may hit you different than the person in the room beside you, but it's going to hit you. And just be ready to work your way through that process, to be able to lean on other people, to hear the cheers of the crowd, kind of edging you on to get over that hump, and you'll get there. You can get there. Yeah.
Yeah. It's beautiful. Making me also think about this comparison that educators tend to do. And it happens particularly in the fitness world. You're looking around the gym at everyone who's got the beefy muscles.
Hey, there's this big guy. He's coming in. There's a girl that looks like she's been running for years. And and you want to get to that. I want to look like that. And it doesn't work that way.
Oh, and it doesn't look like that when you're talking about the teacher who's been in the profession for 15, 20 years and knows how to work with any kind of learner, knows the political dynamics of the school community, because that's a whole different can of worms.
Another can of worms. That's a whole nother box right there. Right.
So when new educators put so much pressure on themselves to be like the teacher that they imagine themselves to be, you're not going to get there in the first 2-3 years. You just got to start the marathon. You just got to start running. And like Arthur Ashe says, do what you can, start where you are. It's the small steps that build up that resiliency over time, and the muscles over time.
And the muscles over time. The muscles get built up over time. Right.
Precisely. So thinking about being the change, making a difference in the world, what are you working on right now, Dr. Calvin Lawrence, that really puts that into perspective, that really sends that message into the world?
Well, the book is very obvious. It's something that I want to make sure that there it is, the happy leader. And so I want to get people to see that you can overcome problems. There's situations, the things that we're talking about right here, right now, in terms of life is not a sprint, it's a marathon, and you have to have good people around and beside you. So that book, for sure, trying to do things locally to try to have an impact in my community, that is really huge for me. I never knew, Christina, how important it is to start to just, if you see something and you can help, I'll give you, again, the stories are better than just kind of saying it. So at my local Y, they have this after-school program with middle schoolers. If I say middle schoolers, to some people, it doesn't register anything. But if I say middle schoolers to educators, they're like, oh. And if there's some people who really love middle schoolers, there's some that hate middle schoolers. But everybody knows that middle school is a different ball of wax. So I listened to this conversation about we need help. Our middle schoolers are, we're kind of in a conundrum with how we can. And I'm thinking, and I'm sitting there and I'm feeling guilty, Christina. I do this sometimes. Feeling guilty that I know something about middle schoolers. I know a lot about middle schoolers. Can I tolerate working with middle schoolers? I think I can, yeah. Better than a lot of people, although I know it takes a little work. It takes a little practice. So long story short, I volunteer with the program. Now, I go through the year and then they're out for the summer, but it's coming up as school's getting ready to start back down here in Texas. And the lady who had me, who was my supervisor, said, are you coming back? Because she was a bit kind of worried. She was kind of worried that maybe I would not, because there are some people that, middle school is a tough nut to crack. And I told her, I said, we all had our separation time. We've had a summer to and there's going to be a new group because the sixth graders, that the fifth graders are coming up, and the eighth graders that were kind of a little obstinate are moving up to the high school. And so here we go. So yeah, so the answer is kind of in a roundabout way, but so plug in where you can help, because I know I have a understanding. I know that those middle schoolers can be like, they can be on your last nerve, but if you reach them, wow, is that not a powerful thing? And so, yeah, had some really nice relationships, some one-on-ones with, hey, kind of throw it back to my book. One of the kids, I had a book signing at that Y, and one of the kids came up and he said, I want to get your book. And it was like, I was so honored by that. And that we gave him a book. We didn't want his mom to have to pay for it. We made sure he got a book and I signed it for him. But it's neat little things like that that make you feel like, hey, it's worth it when you have to call down one of these guys or call a parent because the guy's out of control or whatever. But it's worth it. And they're growing. And we said this earlier in one of our conversations, that it's about growth. It's about their personal growth. It's not about me. If I get myself out of it, and I do sometimes, I'm smart. When I take myself out of the equation, I do a whole lot better with people, and I do a whole lot better with middle schoolers. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's making me think about all the experiences of field trips and those moments of trying to figure out all the logistics. And when you realize you have a talent and a skill at that, it's like, oh my, I actually am really in the right place. Like, there are some people I can imagine in my life who would not handle this the way I'm handling it. So I think it's important to reference a part of your book that I found to be really impactful, and I want to read it aloud from the text because it's one of those moments that made me realize, like, I'm going to write a book like this someday. I need to have a few more experiences.
You need to. I think you've got multiple books in you. I already envision this beautiful, great author with about 25 books eventually. But yeah, well, go ahead, Christine. I'll interrupt you.
No, I'm sending it out to the universe, and I'm so happy to have your support. Gonna happen.
Good. It's gonna happen.
Like, this is the reason why I'd be so empowered to write the book. So it's on page 210, and you say, during the process of writing this book, I'm floored by the uniqueness of each person's journey and how powerful it can truly be to sit down and take the time to go through the pages and chapters of someone's life. Do this even if you think you know that person or a particular situation concerning them. Most of the time, you will be surprised at what you find out. And take notes, which I did take notes. A big part of why I was determined to finish this book is not because I want to show off who I am or what I have become. It's in order to compile within these pages things that will give someone else hope and confidence and show them their uniqueness and value. And this is it. And that message comes through so clearly as you tell all these chapters and stories and lessons from your life about what it really means to hold the balance between who you are and who you're becoming. We can think back on all of these pivotal life moments when we were challenged, we had those setbacks, we had an opportunity to go or stay. And I think you are such a clear role model of accepting the challenge with grace and service always in mind. And it's really inspiring to be able to say, you're an author, you've written this amazing work, and now it's going out into the world, and so many educators and just individuals who want to be happy leaders can read this and feel connected.
It is. You touch me with those words. It's like, did I really write that? I guess I did. It's been a little bit since I wrote and then had the book published, but it's like, I think I had gotten to that point, and you said it, page 210. So by the time I get to that point, I'm touched by how the book affected me. Because I told somebody the best part about writing it, because it was arduous for me, Christina, I will tell you no lie. But the best part were the stories and having to go back and remember these people and the influences, and hope that I had some influences with some of the students that I had. I hope I did. I hope I did something that, because like you said earlier, a lot of those stories you'll never hear. Those students won't come back, even if they're successful. You may catch them somewhere, but for the most part, most of them you don't get a chance to see what happened to Johnny, what happened to Sally, what happened to, you don't get to see that. But for sure, with some of those colleagues, with some of the people, with some of the leaders that taught me, that mentored me, that took me under their wing, and having to go back and then remember for sure, if I hadn't met that person, you alluded to this earlier, I would have never done this, or I would have never done that, or they wouldn't have taken me on that field trip that Doris Harris took me on, so that my love of history became what it was. So yeah, that was the best part for me, and I can kind of see it's going to be the best part for you too.
And it's such a process to go through life and reflect on all these experiences. And I think if I was going to give one final piece of advice to the educators who are listening to this episode, my piece of advice would be take it slow, process the experiences, and reflect in community with others who are also going on the path with you. And what would be your final takeaway, big piece of advice to the folks who are listening to all of our conversations?
Biggest piece of advice, and you shared it earlier, so it's not a big surprise, is that relationships are critical and leadership is so impactful. And if you do the relationship thing right, all those other things kind of fall into place, but you got to do relationship right. You got to take the effort, be intentional, learn people's names, spend time with people, make time for people, make people feel valued and needed and worthwhile.
That is so well said. And I will end by saying thank you so much for taking the time and adding value with this conversation and with all of the moments that, we've connected over the last couple of months, the support, the experience, and the continual mentorship. I consider you one of those role models that I want to continue to learn from and be guided by throughout the rest of my career, helping educators and being in this space.
Thank you so much, Christina. I was super excited that you would even want me to be on your show, but of course our JMU connection just kind of comes through. And so just thank you so much. I see great things for you, like those 25 future books plus whatever you're going to be writing. And then, of course, your impact around the globe.
Well, that's amazing. Thank you so much for the support. And we're sending good energy and good vibes out to all the educators and everyone who's listening. Thank you for supporting these conversations with educators that I'm doing here on YouTube. And if you haven't gotten it already, I'll include the link to go get Dr. Calvin Lawrence's book, The Happy Leader, in the description below. So thank you all for being here. Thank you, Dr. Calvin Lawrence. And we will see you in the next series with another fantastic educator. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.